How many people in the United States do you think are gaming right now?
Most of them Saturday. Yeah, it's almost everyone under the age of 30.
We think
It's like 80% under the age of 30.
how many of us out here are playing and playing secretly? Like how many closet gamers are in there?
I think there's a lot. I actually thought this was earlier today. I thought this. I went to an appointment and the husband mentioned a video game. And I saw the wife physically cringe just a little bit. And I saw the husband notice, like out of the corner of his like husband eye, that she's probably cringing at him talking about this. Regardless of how cool or accepted or everyone's doing it, there's something in us instinctually. There's something in the woman that's like knows it's immature. The women know it and the guys know it. No matter how much we try to play it up as, you know, it's just a fun hobby. You know, we all know it's not the most mature thing we could be doing with our time. I love video games, but we all know that, whether we admit it or not.
I think every guy loves video games.
Yeah.
I don't care who they are.
But whether they're playing or not, they love video games.
Yes, there is some game out there that they would play forever.
Absolutely.
If they just didn't have any responsibility.
No. You have people playing video games and people choosing to not play them.
So that's a funny thing. Why is there this strange aversion and judgment? You have self-judgment of it, and then other people are judging you for it too. Maybe not everyone. It's much more accepted now more than ever, I'm sure. But why is there that tinge of judgment, like saying you're a video gamer?
Oh, it's full-blown masturbation. There's really no... It is an entirely self-centered affair where you're not thinking about anyone but yourself and your own pleasure. You're locked in. Like if someone even talks to you, you have to like change brains to hear them. You know, it's the mind of a 5-year-old with his truck. And that's exactly, so there's nothing mature about it. There's nothing productive. There's nothing like communicative because you're either working, whatever relationship it is, it's with your roommates or your spouse or your friends. You're either building on that relationship or you're not, or you're closing in on yourself. And video games are in the direction of you're just closing in on yourself in your own little, space. So the best defense, if there is one, is, well, that's just something I do in this block of time to decompress, like similar to smoking without the cancer. Like that's the argument. But in reality, it's just masturbation for sure. And everyone who plays games and is honest with themselves would say that. Most people I know who play games would totally admit it's just masturbation without the porn.
And I posted the video the other day, 400,000 views, over 2,000, 3,000 comments on it. Most everybody justifying games. And there was a large swath of these comments that said, I play games with my friends. We get in the headsets, I talk with the boys, and we have a great time every night of the week. There's nothing wrong with this. It's no different than TV or social media, dude. Fuck off.
There's merit to that comment. I mean, I only smoke weed with the boys, is another one. Weed is even more social. Yeah. So honestly, not the best comparison.
Yeah.
But
I don't drink alone.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I drink with I drink with my friends all the time. The issue with games isn't the fact that you're playing a game necessarily. I mean, you could always say, why aren't you doing something more productive with your time? But if someone's sitting down for 10 minutes and thinking about you could say that about them in that moment. You could say that to someone if they're just resting, if they're just doing a crossword puzzle, like why aren't you changing the fan out for a new one? So that's not an issue of, is it a waste of time? Even though it is, it's where does it rank in your priorities? Like you could say I play with my friends and it's social. That there's merit there, but where is it in terms of how important it is to you? If it's the most important thing to you, if it comes before your work or before your school or before actually having good relationships or a girl, those positives that you're mentioning don't even come close to weighting it in a way that allows it to be there. It's not there because you're social. You could just be social playing darts, social. You could be social bowling. You could be social doing Scrabble, a million other things. The reason you play such a premium on video games isn't because of those benefits you're listing. For most of these people, it's because you're full blown addicted and you can't get off regardless of how good or bad it is. It's just that you're addicted to playing.
And you just have to figure out a way to justify it to yourself and others after the fact to avoid feeling bad about it long enough to change. And if something feels good to you, you do not want to think or figure out or poke any holes in it. You know, when I was in jail for underage drinking, fourth time I was in jail, I was in there for 100 days, sentenced and everything, cry my eyes out in the courtroom. I wrote like a 10-page letter, and most of the letter was a massive, long, drawn out, perfectly done justification of why drinking is awesome, why it bonds people together, why it's amazing for humanity, while I'm in jail with like a broken life, no money, like, you know. So it's kind of funny the lengths that we'll go to justify the bad things that we do to avoid actually looking at ourselves in the mirror and doing something different or questioning it at all.
If you don't have a game plan in your mind of a way that you will do life better, you are forced to justify your existence. Every serial killer or murderer, if you push them, will justify why they killed who they killed. Like look into any lengthy interview. It's going to be in there somewhere. It's just the human condition. We have to justify where we're at, and the only way we don't have to justify it is if we see a path forward. And so if we haven't seen a path other than the path that we're on, or we're not willing to accept that there is one, then it's impossible not to justify, because we can't physically, emotionally, our nervous system, we can't feel that bad about ourselves and there not be a solution. It just doesn't work. We're far too weak for that. And if you get to that place, then that's suicide lane. You know what I mean? You can't just sit with that day after day. You'll find yourself justifying, no matter what. Alcohol, video games. If you're committed to your path, you're just going to justify that path. So I think most of these people just aren't open to the possibilities that are in front of them, or they've rejected any other possibility, whether because they think they're too weak to ever stop playing, or they haven't gotten to that point where they realize how bad it actually can be or has been for their life.
Or they can't consider that something else could be better.
For sure, yeah.
Like there's just not a better option. I love video games. It's my life. I do it for fun. Like, please don't take my fun away from me. It's all I have.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, if someone told me video games were just bad, or lots of people did when I was a teenager, I just thought they were assholes. You know? I just didn't get it.
My joy.
Yeah. I just didn't get it. But
how long did you play? When did you start?
I started playing video games when I was, thankfully not too young. I think I was like 6, which is still pretty young, but you got those 2-year-olds on iPads now.
Yeah.
And who knows what's going to happen to them?
Yeah. Addicted to the screen at 2.
Yeah. But I was a pretty high anxiety kid. Mm-hmm. So games, which is a no anxiety affair, you know, and all the anxiety is really contained. You know what I mean? There's no judgment within it. It's the anxiety of, am I going to win the level or am I not going to win it? You know, just that, I was totally hooked. You know, I played every minute I possibly could, until I was 18.
And you weren't even in high school, right? Like how long did you make it through high school?
I technically graduated, but I dropped out in 10th grade and then did some online stupid thing that took like 2 weeks. And then I graduated with 4 point something, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Technically.
Okay.
But yeah, it's, so I'm not just knocking, because what we're talking about, the issue with video games, or the reason to be talking about it is there's a swath of the population that it ranks way too high on their priority list, you know, because it's just hijacked their reward system. They've allowed it to hijack their reward system. Mm-hmm. You know, the main reason to go towards things that are good for us is because we want them. You know, like back in the 80s or 70s, whatever it is, you know, there's not that video game reward day in and day out. So you had a much bigger percent of the population that's like, I want a Mustang. What do I got to do? Got to get a job? Okay. You know, and then they work or do whatever or hustle with newspapers until they get the Mustang. And then boom, they got their reward. Because you're looking around for a reward. What is it? You know, and if there isn't this like immediate video game, digital drug, it's for sure a digital drug. There isn't this digital drug, you know, all day. You're going to have to pick something. Mm-hmm. And if you pick a Mustang, you're going to work for that. If you pick, you know, girls, you're going to work to get to a point where girls like you. You know, it just naturally pans out. But now we have people who are stunted towards these other goals, like actually working towards the car they want, working towards getting to a point where women will like them, you know, getting to a point where they can get along with people and like have friends. All those goals are somewhere in their head, but they're stopped here at this. Every time they get that urge to not feel like a piece of shit, they just pick up a controller and they're just stuck there year after year. Lots of people, 27 at this point, you know, 20 or whatever it is.
And I think most gamers know that. I know that they know that their life could be way better.
Yeah, especially like over the age of 19.
If they had the belief that it was possible, and yes, especially if they're really young, like their life is not put together. They're not married. There's not a happy family. They're not in a nice house. There's not a stable, successful, put together and integrated lifestyle. Like all this adventure and hobbies and travel and things they want to do and passions and groups and a work that they really like with company and people that they really enjoy working with. And you're exactly right. For the man's reward system specifically, the masculine in everyone craves challenge. We want competition. We want to win. We want to succeed at something. And then the video game has hijacked that reward system, like you said, to give you this artificial, synthetic, fake reward for clicking buttons. And you can justify like, oh, I work really hard in these games. Have you played these games? These are tough games, man. It's like, okay, man, sure. You know, it's
and
like,
that isn't an entirely unfair point within video games. There are lower quality video games and higher quality video games. That's true. Because I don't want to talk about video games like there's a lot of, because we went through there's a lot of things. You can't just shut everything down that someone says just because their main thesis is wrong, or they'll tune out. You know what I mean? 100%. There are games that are better than other games. There are games that will teach you more than other games will. Where you can develop some. I played a game called RuneScape. Absolutely taught me good fundamentals on the economy.
Click,
yeah,
click,
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 yeah,
click, click,
yeah.
click,
Lots of clicking, lots
12
of
hours a day
for like 8 years. But 100%, I learned some really good economic principles because I was playing that game instead of Candy Crush. RuneScape is a game with a fully functioning economy, fully functioning. It's not supported or propped up in any way. It's players versus players and the items that they're trading. And that gives the things in it a natural value based on supply and demand solely. And so I learned some economic fundamentals. But I also didn't learn how to shower regularly, how to get a girl, how to talk to a girl, or even got to a point where I talked to make friends, you know, appropriately, and you know.
And you were overweight then too.
Yeah, so didn't teach me how to move.
You had a really puffy face. What was your diet like during that time?
So I didn't know anything outside of calorie intake. I had no knowledge of nutrition, no respect for the idea. So what I did is I didn't eat too much because I was chubby. Didn't want to get chubbier. So I ate 2,500 calories in corn dogs and stuffed crust pizza. That's all I ate.
That's a real.
Oh, and these $1 barbecue burgers from Dollar Tree that were solid. And like 40 grams of sugar in them, like a Coke.
Holy shit.
Yeah, when I checked out.
Professional bodybuilder.
Yeah, I bought that's what they said. I had no idea. I had a glazed over look. I bought 30 of these barbecue burgers. That was it. I checked out with 30 of them. And she goes, "You going bodybuilding?" I just stared at her with a blank expression. I had no idea what she was talking about. Like 2,000 calories a day, but that's 5 burgers. What do you mean? I had no idea.
I'm bodybuilding solely to get my BMI up. That's it.
Yeah, I had none of that. So yeah, I learned some by playing RuneScape instead of a more brainless game. I learned some basic economics, and the other 95% of what I could be learning fell to the wayside. So not a good trade.
Do you regret all the time you spent?
No.
Why?
I think I learned some really good lessons because I got out of it. If I was still playing, absolutely, I'd regret it. You know, I got out in my turning 20, you know, and that was luck.
Okay.
The luck of having no options. If I had, you know, happy, supportive parents, you know, here's the bagel bites under the door, I'd regret it.
I'd still be in the
I'd for
basement.
sure still regret it at that point. But because I learned because I had so many hard fought battles transitioning from that, it gave me some gumption and self-respect that I don't know if I would have learned if I took another path.
There's a saying, your branches can't reach heaven unless your roots reach down to hell. And I know that's something people will never understand until they experience it. You know, you don't know what you don't know. And you can't feel a certain way or imagine feeling a certain way if you've never felt it before. You can watch a movie and like kind of enjoy the emotion that this actor has on camera in this certain scene, that his life turns around, or he marries the woman of his dreams and they sail off into the sunset, you know, but it's so foreign to you. You're kind of disassociated from that severely. And I think today people really need more hope and faith in that life can actually be so much better than they know, because all you know is what you currently know. And if your entire life you've been running at 10%, I mean, you got another 90% on the table, you know, and that you just don't know.
Yeah.
You're like topping out at 10%, but you're like living in 5%, you know? So that's kind of.
It's true. It's the number one thing that, it was one of my regretful beliefs at the time that, and I say I don't regret it, I don't regret it, but it's just an unfortunate belief to hold that you can't get better. You know, that life can't get better, that there are certain things that are, that are static, that can't be moved. Like something more dynamic might be, you know, I accept that I could be in better shape theoretically, but my headspace will never get better. This is, you know, who I am. And that's a huge mistake to think that.
And that's the reason why people can keep playing games for so long every night of the week. And playing them gives you this reward. It gives you the satisfaction. I mean, you're falling in love in some of these games. You're playing role-playing games, RPGs, Final Fantasy, you name it, whatever. I mean, you're Grand Theft Auto. There's these games that you're like experiencing life as somebody else.
No.
And you're watching these cutscenes, these trailers, and these stories play out, so you feel like you're really there.
Yeah.
But the difference between video games and movies, because a lot of gamers are convinced that TV is just as bad, but I don't believe it's bad, because I don't see young people watching TV for 12 hours a day, but I've seen plenty of young people playing video games for 12 hours a day.
It's not as bad. You have some, you know, people wasting their life away in the older ages. You know, usually they're popping pills and watching TV. You know, they go hand in hand.
And that's like after they got a house for the most part. They've
Yeah.
already built something. They got the old truck outside they bought fixed up.
Yeah. But video games, what makes them so deadly, exactly, because I completely agree with you that video games are way worse, is because because it satisfies our number one driver, which is desire and the need to not feel like a loser, which is the desire to
feel
matter.
like you feel like you win in the game because
it satisfies it, and when you're young, it satisfies it a whole lot. You feel like, whoa, you know, like catching that dub feels like heaven.
Yeah.
And then you get to a point, you know, when you hit a certain age where it just enough to not realize how much of a loser that you are, and you have to go out and try. You know, whether that's get a job, whether that's, you know, get your life in order. You know, on social media, it can be similarly deadly in the social front. You get just enough social validation, to convince yourself you're cooperating with people, and being a healthy person. But it really just stunts you in the long term. So yeah, that's because you can only watch TV for so long before you go crazy, because you still have that desire, that need to do something, this is an amazing quote I heard when I was transitioning into not trying in most areas of my life to trying. And that was, have you tried doing nothing for like 4 hours in the morning? Just actually nothing, no phone, no nothing. You'll go crazy. You can't do it. If you are literally doing nothing for, let's say 10 hours, let's put it to an extreme at all for 10 hours, you will just get up and do something. You can't handle it. But if you're playing video games for 10 hours, yeah, like we said, it gives you just enough to, then it's just the next day, and if you play each day out the same way, getting just enough, then you can blow by 10 years. It's super easy.
I wonder how often people are playing, even in their mid-20s, early 20s, they got a job, they got a girlfriend, that gamer. And I think that's become a primary gamer, someone that's like hopping on the console every day, right? I think they don't realize and they don't consider that the 4 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours you're spending, it's hijacking that reward system. So if you're shit at your job, you're at that too. But if you're at a job that you don't like, it's mundane, you're just getting by, you're going to drift in that position, because every man needs to feel like they're succeeding in areas of their life. They need to feel like they're winning at something. So when you don't feel like you're winning in real life itself, at least in multiple categories, which requires effort and trying and work, going to the games each night keeps that urge, like you said, not completely. It keeps it satiated. And that satiation is sedating and distracting, and it strips you away of who you could be, and who you could be very quickly, because you can change your life around very fast. 1, 2, 3 years, man, you can look like a new different person, move to a new place, have a new person in your life, new friends, new company, new hair, new everything. If you really wanted to, like new car. In 3 years, anyone can do any of those things. If you know how to read, you can speak a language, and you live in the first world,
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's funny because it just allows time to drift by so quickly. Because this is funny. People say games are the same as movies. When I watched movies, there's a disconnect from me in the movie.
Yep. There's a barrier.
I can be really inspired and moved by movies to act out in the real world. You know how many times I watch Never Back Down, Fight Club, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. Each time I watch these things, I'm like building fuel to become a better person. When I'm playing a game, I don't care what game it is, for the most part, I'm actually satisfied because I'm controlling the character and the narrative. I'm controlling the storyline. I'm controlling what happens. I'm controlling how I level up and increase my stat bars in the game.
Yeah.
The movie, you're a passive observer. You're not active in that movie. And I think when you transition to feeling like you're active at something that you're also winning at, that's when you can just allow the rest of your life to slip by. And then you wake up at 29, scratching your head. You wake up at 39, you're bald now. You don't know what's going on. You're still at the same job for 12 years, maybe. You haven't got a raise in forever. You're still in an apartment drinking Capri Sun. And you're just like, oh, dang. And I don't think enough people have reached that point, because games are still relatively new and they've got really good recently in the last decade.
And they've gotten really good PR.
Really good PR, because they have more money than potentially the movie industry at this point. I'm not sure how much revenue is in video. I know it's more revenue,
way
according
more
to some charts, right?
It's way more.
I mean, Fortnite. I don't.
Than movies.
We don't even need to quote the numbers. You can look them up for yourself.
Well,
The
anyone who
money
doesn't like
there,
them is a boomer.
it's like there's a separation between boomers and what is it, Zoomers? or something.
Something like that. It's boomers, millennials, and zoomers, I think is what it is.
Gotcha.
And yeah, there's
That's
this
funny.
big barrier because there were barriers. You know, millennials and zoomers grew up on electronics. They have a different understanding of the world. They have different attachments, like SpongeBob. You know what I mean? It's a really big deal to us, you know, or whatever it is. So, and a lot of these things feel real, and you know, they feel fluid, and you have real connections. And then your parents are just glazed over, like they have no idea. So you feel separated from them. You know, everyone feels separated from their parents to some degree, but it got like an us versus them mentality. And then, you know, porn, everybody loves, you know, porn's great, blah, blah, blah. Video games are great, blah, blah, blah. And then so it got all this really good press, all this really good, you know, and then now we're starting to realize the effects of it, and we're coming back to, you know, like, well, how good is it? You know, how much porn in video games, you know, and for who, you know, and for, you know, what lifestyle?
Everybody knows it's bad deep down. Everybody knows there's something better that they could be doing with their life and with their time. But they intellectually justify and rationalize and give up the idea that things could be better. They just throw in the towel and say, fuck it. I'm going to play this. I love it. It's fun. It's fine. And just chill. Let me just chill and live my life.
And I think because there's a lot of people who do earnestly want something better. And this is there were two things, and they're pretty much the same thing, that my beliefs were wrong on, that I only learned through experience, and no one actually, well, people did tell me my life could be better, but one that no one told me until I learned it for myself is people will try to stop playing video games for like 2 days or a day. So get to that point where like, holy crap, this sucks. And life sucks for those 2 days. It just is. It's terrible. You know, everything's more anxious. People are annoying. And you associate, so you say life sucks, because obviously it does. That is your genuine personal experience that it sucks. But where you're wrong in that position is because in video games, the reward is now. Right now, right after you get the kill, boom, dub. And you're used to things being like that. You know, if it's good, it feels good. If it's bad, it feels bad. And there's a really short time frame between when you start and when you find out if it's good or bad. But if you were to stop playing video games, just stop. You don't get to that point where your brain gets rewired to find the good for months, many months, because you're used to that short cycle. And then your brain has to rewire itself to get to that longer cycle. So you have these people that quit for 2 days, or even the champions who quit for 3 weeks, and they still haven't even gotten to that point where their brain's experiencing the world normal again, where you just know, just coffee's exciting. Oh, cool. It's cake day because it's Katie's birthday at work. That's awesome. And you're actually happy about that. Not just getting the dopamine for the cake, but that actually makes your day better. And everything just starts to take on more meaning, and simpler things create more joy. And they just, gamers, I certainly didn't know that it just takes a minute, like a long few months of minutes, to get to that point where life starts to ramp itself up, you know, in terms of your reward system, what it associates to what.
And that's how you know it's a straight chemical addiction. Alcoholism is the same thing. You stop drinking, you're not going out anymore. You're not hanging out with your buddies and going to parties.
It sucks.
It sucks. It's the
really
same
sucks.
thing, but you just have to have the belief and faith and knowing that it'll be way better after that. So you got to just do it.
Yeah, you gotta have that long time frame of detachment from it, and be going towards something else. Getting off of an addiction without a supplement is bordering on impossible. You need something to take a placeholder, and for most people, easy solution, because we're mostly talking about guys who are talking about video games. The gym, you know, the gym, your job, church. If you know. Even if you don't, just go for fun. It's good music. Just try it.
It's like every hour that you spend on a game, you are cheating yourself out of your own existence and destiny in a sense, because every time you're on the game, you're getting full tilt reward level dopamine and all these other chemicals, stress hormones too. So it like feels more exciting and you're in it, you know, you're playing Overwatch, just non-freaking stop, click, 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 for like 4.5 hours. You don't care. You always feel bad when you get off of them for the most part, you know, like you always feel like kind of wired. You can't even sleep as normally as you could if you were just off games. But what happens is you're gaming to a point where you no longer are allowed the space and the time and the energy to ever consider any other possibilities or try any other possibilities for a better life because you just keep coming back to it. Just like alcohol, just grab a drink every day you get off work, sit back, turn on the sports, kick your feet up in the lazy boy, just like, you know, the people would say like the boomers would do, right? And
watch golf.
Yeah, watch golf all day and watch your life slip by and you die. You know, and I think people don't understand that life can be a story. And a large reason we're playing many games that we do play, especially the role-playing games, RuneScape, you're going on quests, you're going on adventures, you're taking stories down certain routes, and you're learning things and life lessons that you can actually grab and apply to real life in very usually shallow, naive ways, of course, because real life is the real story and has the real lessons, and real lessons and wisdom and stories only come from pain that you've trained yourself to avoid and not be able to handle.
Yeah. Yeah. You're 100% right. And you learn in that you are going on adventures, but because there's no sacrifice involved in it, you learn the wrong lesson, or you learn an extremely immature lesson. Where if you go out in the real world, you know, and that's boomer talk right there. You know, the real world. Now, I can't tell you how mad that would make me when I was like, the real world, like you condescending ass.
It's all the same.
Yeah, because there's a cost benefit, you know, to everything. You know, and you'll hop off nothing but video games, and you know, not getting your food on time, you know, is apocalyptic. Yeah, really, you know, it's just the worst. Or having to talk to people when you weren't like psyched up to talk to people, you know, because you have to psych yourself up first. It's just the apocalypse, you know, and it's just not fair. Where your game character is just like getting his crap beat out of him. You know, he got breathed on by fire before he killed the dragon and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's not happening to you. You know, you're just, you know.
You're sitting there in your boxers, shirtless with a bag of chips, just like clicking little buttons on a little controller, you know.
So there's just this lack of acceptance that life lived properly has necessary pain all the time. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing that there's the pain and you're happy. And, you know, and sometimes it's too much, and it is genuinely too much, or you pussy out. Cause that's one things that boomers have on us is they will more often admit they were being a bitch. They're like, yeah, I was being a pussy about that. Way more often than not, those boomers who are the ones who are wasting their life will admit it. You know, like, yeah, I'm far lazier than I should be. Cause as much as hypocritical and as much as they can suck, they have a greater appreciation for the fact that life lived properly has necessary and accepted pain. And if you're only on games, you do not accept that life has pain and that it's a good, necessary thing and that it's part of the rhythm of things.
And people don't understand that we're in a world of duality. So you cannot feel pleasure without feeling pain. So if you live in a world of nothing but pleasure, you build this meaningless, numbing, disassociated existence where everything's just bleh, like it's just static. Everything's just old TV static.
Oh, I remember the bleh.
Just bleh.
I described it as Half-Life.
And it's Half-Life. You're hollow. You're a shell of yourself. Like I can look at you and like flick your brain out of your head, you know,
Yeah.
Like a lot of young guys that I see working in customer service, and you can just tell they don't eat. They don't even wash their clothes. They're just gaming at night, you know. They don't have any type of balance to life. They've just plunged into that world head on.
And the worst of them you could recognize because they'll eyed wide open just talk to a cashier clerk about Pokemon completely, not all of them. So I'm not flat judging, but we're just completely unaware of their self-centered obsession with their hobby, and they don't know how to talk. They've lost the ability to talk to people, or maybe they never learned it because they game from such a young
never
age.
practice. I mean, if you're gaming 5 hours a day for how long? 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day. What if that time was used talking to human beings?
Yeah.
Somewhere, and you can immediately think like, oh, like I don't have any friends, I don't do. There's always some weird excuse, but
I find a million of them.
You can always find some story or some rationalization or justification for not doing anything about yourself. And I think people need to know there's like 1,001 different things they could be doing that would be actually better for them by their own definition, if only they put the controller down and tried for the first time and really tried and walked into things with more of a level of an open mind and a level of responsibility, understanding that out here in the real world, of course, real world,
Boomer.
You have pain and pleasure, and you cannot feel that. You cannot feel the pleasure without that pain, so if just like the quote I mentioned from earlier, your branches can't reach heaven unless your roots can reach hell.
Yeah.
But most people are just drifting in the middle of everything. You're like a worm, just like scooting along.
Something in between the middle and hell.
Yeah, yeah. If only there was like a phoenix that could like dig through the ground and rock and like shoot up in the sky too, breathing fire in both places. That'd be cool. Anyways, maybe that's something in a video game. But no, it's a funny thing because you just don't know what you don't know, and you don't know unless you really try.
You don't know.
And when you do try, nothing's going to come easy in the world. But we all know that things that are worthwhile are hard to get. That's why they're valued. That's why they're valuable. Value is determined by rarity, It's like a diamond is valuable because it's one of the rarest stones in the world. Also beautiful. If you want a beautiful life, it's not just easy and simple to get. And even if you do get there and can get closer to that, something that people also don't understand, especially me being a previous gamer for a long time, you become completely unplugged and disassociated from your own emotional being. Guys are already really bad at understanding, processing, accepting, and being able to maneuver their emotions appropriately. So you get out here in the real world and like painful shit happens. You just kind of lock.
It's confusing.
It's confusing. You just kind of lock up. You're like kind of numb. You're just like, you might freeze up, like all the first times I got in trouble at work, anytime someone criticized me at work, like, dude, a guy told me like I'm 20 years old and 21. Holy shit. I was 21. And this manager of a company I was at, I worked in a Chinese sweatshop. I mean, we had no AC, no air, no heating. There was two people on my side of the building that spoke English. Me, this manager, and we have 30 other like Oriental and Asian women working in my department. And it's a really Chinese sweatshop. We were working in manufacturing of fiberglass insulation. Like I got gloves, I got masks, everything, and I got goggles. And I was doing a damn good job there. It was one job that I was like, I want to work really hard here because I know they'll give me a raise. And they told me that if you work hard, we'll give you a raise. I'm like, okay, So I'm busting my butt, but I had to do vacuuming and sweeping of the floors a couple nights of the week. The first day I grabbed the vacuum and started using it to vacuum these floors, the manager comes over and looks at me. He was like, what the hell are you doing? Have you never used a vacuum before? Like my whole brain froze up. Just that little pit of criticism. I went blank in the face. I got so nervous. My fucking face turned red. And all I could say was, I go to college. I'm actually smart. Like that was the most intelligent thing I could come back at him with, right? I cannot believe it. And he looked at me and he was like, I graduated Georgia too, but we're in the same job, brother. So work the vacuum. And I'm like, and like it took me a decade to build a level of confidence and awareness about myself and others to really be able to understand how awful games are because of the contrast of how much better life can be and how much better you can be.
Yeah.
People don't understand that you can continue to learn and improve over time. You know?
No, 100%. Exactly what we were talking. If you don't know you can get better, you have to justify who you are. You can't. So you only video games.
It's like being a gamer is cool now. You know, I'm a gamer. You know, you got like all these things on your profile and stuff, and you're posting cool pictures of it. You're filming
Minecraft
videos
t-shirts.
of gaming. You like stream here and there and call yourself a streamer in your head. Build Minecraft worlds and show them off to your friends.
Well, you can't handle not working a vacuum without imploding on yourself.
Yeah.
Cost benefit.
Every job I worked at, you know,
Yeah.
when I got criticized, I would just die. I couldn't handle the pain. Couldn't handle it.
I was straight stupid. I didn't have that physicality. I tried my first job. I was only 14, but I tried my best as a cashier at Ace Hardware, and my till was short every time. I didn't own a cell phone. I wasn't doing anything else but handling the customers, and there wasn't even a lot of them. But I couldn't manage to get the money right. So I was like $20 off, and she called me to the office. She knows I'm not a thief, but she's like, "Holy crap, your till's $20 short." I'm just like, "What?" Oh, they did. Yeah, no, I got blown around. I blew myself around the parking lot with a leaf blower because I couldn't manage it. So I'm flying around the parking lot trying to get the leaves.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and my next job, I did have a cell phone at this point, but I didn't use it like on the job. So there's nothing else going on. It's me trying my best. I worked at Dollar Tree, and it was my job at the end of the night to make sure the aisles are clear of items. And I would walk the same aisle 8 times and not notice things. And my store manager, who was an awesome guy, because this guy was patient, unlike the lady at Ace Hardware, who just gave up. And I did get better because I had a really cool patient manager. He'd bring me to the aisle and he's like, point to the soup can that I passed 8 times because I just didn't have that just base physical awareness to where small things of my immediate environment mattered. Like what mattered was the bagel bites, my computer not falling down the stairs when I walked down them. You know, I just had my list of things that mattered. The more games got important, got smaller and smaller until 90% of it is just meaningless peripheral. There just isn't that importance attached to it. So same as you, when I entered the job force, it was a struggle bus, to say the least. But had a good boss who was patient, and I could pick up the soup cans, 6-8 months later.
Probably had a soft spot for you, man. This kid is so handicapped. Probably put him on the short bus in school, and the struggle bus in real life. So, what do people do if they're in a spot or they're gaming and they know they're gaming a little bit too much? They know they could be using their time better. They know they could be using that to spend it with their wife or XYZ or become better. You know, it only takes 30 minutes in the gym a day to really build yourself into someone that looks really good. If you can stay committed at it for at least a couple of years, and enjoy it too.
Well, I don't think most guys have wives. I don't think most guys have gone on a date in the last year or are talking to anyone. The vast majority of them are just sitting in their boxers, maybe going to a job, hopefully going to a job, and then games, and that's it. Job just to pay the bills, so they can keep playing the games. So they have no idea what you're talking about with this wife, what we're talking about with this wife stuff. And there are people in that situation, but those are people who are already I think those are people that are already at least halfway sold on life matters. I think the majority aren't sold on anything but video games doesn't suck. I think the majority of gamers under the age of 25
video games sucks.
A proper gamers.
Life sucks.
Yeah. Everything but games sucks.
Wage slavery out here. Yeah. Corporate overlords are controlling me. My life is over. I'm oppressed.
The truth is they just want a game until they die, and everything outside of that is annoying and and an inconvenience, especially having to pay rent. Gosh, that's annoying when you're trying to get dubs. You know, when you're kind of when you're trying to catch great dubs, rent's super annoying. So yeah, they need to. I would say to them, like when if you're at that point, because you don't have any reference point to things could be better. You don't think there's.
You don't care.
You just want a game. So if you just want a game, and you think life kind of sucks, if both of those things are together, and you've tried just gaming for however many years, you're 23, you're 21, you're 27, whatever it is, just so you've given those however many years to games. You did it. You're not happy. The math is done. You tried it. You've been trying. So the jury's out. Just try as a straight up experiment. You don't got to be fancy. Try not doing that for 6 months. Not 2 weeks, because it won't work. It's just not how our brains function. Won't work. Just try the gym, your job, maybe something social like bowling if you're lucky enough to have a friend, you know, or just hanging out in the park with them. Try anything else for 6 months. And if you're not happier at the end of that, or you don't see something different in life, yeah, go ahead and devote the next 60 to games. Go have fun, you know, because at least then you tried. And then you'll have a better argument even. You'll be able to say definitively, I tried life for an appropriate amount of time. That sucked. I'm back to gaming forever. But if you've only ever tried the game and you're still miserable, then you don't really know what you're talking about because you haven't actually tried both.
I've got a lot of comments on my videos that they have tried life and it sucks. So they're going back to games. What do you say to that?
I'd say anyone I know like that hasn't tried for more than like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I've got friends, you know, they half-assed
or it's like
it at
they're
a
like
job.
10% trying, 20, 30% trying in all categories, maybe only a couple categories, avoiding a lot of categories, obviously.
Yeah.
Because if your life was good, you wouldn't game. The people that have good lives out here, they do not play games. And if they do, it's rare and it's with like some buddies physically in person, you know, maybe. Or it's with their son.
Yeah, if life was enough, but then even then, you said Elon Musk, you know, he had to backtrack it because he popped on the game, you know.
That was Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan is because I think video games are similar to porn. You know, you could because I think what you just said is true, but there's still a part of every man who wants to be, you know, a fuck off, you know, here and there. Like you could say you wouldn't watch porn if you were happy in your relationship. I think the majority of men who are happy in their relationship and try do at the very least get tempted here and there. Like they feel particularly insecure. They're not good at their job and their wife has given them nothing but you did this and this wrong, you know, this given day. And they just feel like they just want to, you know, they just want to feel like they're dominating some woman and they
want to win something.
Exactly. They want to win something. You know, they just want a girl that's for them and that's what porn is. Or they'll get to that point where I just want to play a game, you know? But I think you won't need it if you're happy with your relationship. You know, if you let that temptation go, you know, and then you go back to, you just get your head back in the game. Or if your life's going good, you don't need the game. You have a temptation, you might even play, but you'll snap back in the game because you've got good things going on and you'll be able to put your energy in that direction. You know, whether it's the gym, whether it's an actual career, whether it's you're running a business, starting a business, you'll want to gas that, you know, path.
And then most people say they don't need it. They just want it. It's an option to them. Like I did that with alcohol. I'm not an addict. I don't need alcohol. I don't need this shit at all. But I drink every day.
Yeah.
So that's a funny argument to parse out. I think if you can't go without it, like you can't just like quit for a month and be totally normal, I think that's when you need it.
For sure.
And I think most people can't even give it that. They can't quit for a month. They won't. They won't unplug the Xbox and take that controller and give it to a friend and make them keep it in their closet. Yeah. You know, like they won't do it. And that's usually what you need to do to quit video games. Like you can't have the console in your house. The minute you come home from like a half stressed day, you're going to be up until 1 a.m. And then you're like going to be like half awake at your job, working at the front desk at Planet Fitness or UPS or whatever. Well, UPS is actually a great career path, but you know, a position Name any position where someone is there and they just dislike their job and it's just a job to them. They're just clocking in and clocking out and they don't enjoy it and they don't have good friends at the job. That seems to be a lot of people today. That's why the anti-work movement and everything's growing so fast. And gaming is growing fast.
Yeah, gaming spawned anti-work for sure. It's
like the ethos of anti-work. Give me everything for doing almost nothing.
Yeah.
Without thinking of how you create things in the world. Everything that's created in this world is from some type of struggle and some type of pain.
The percent of justifications has just skyrocketed. Like, because people in lower level positions and not too happy, let's say McDonald's. I think the majority of low earning employees at McDonald's, the majority probably don't enjoy their job that much. But if they weren't addicted to things like games in their spare time, they would have to, the knowledge would dawn on them that they could be doing better. They could just pursue a management position and then pursue that management, a management position above that, or go through a different career field. So there's always been people working at McDonald's and not that happy about it, but they had a higher level of awareness that it's on them to make their life better.
Mm-hmm. You don't think about your life unless you have time to think about your life.
Yeah. And if you're just chasing that next high.
If you're alone in your house and like TV's not on, you're not on your phone and you're not on the Xbox, that's when you can really face yourself. You start feeling real uncomfortable. And uncomfort and pain is there as a signal to change our situation, change our behavior about something, or change our perception about something, which I think a lot of the gaming community will have to do to ever get a shot of climbing out and building a life that they're actually happy about, because it's really sad to see how many gamers are out here really vouching for gaming, but are also at the same time very sad about their life.
And that's the kicker.
And don't want their life.
If you're actually, you said in the beginning that some people will just say that they're happy just because it's more positive than negative. But I think most people aren't that dishonest with themselves. I think most people admit they're not happy, that aren't happy. And so if you're gaming and you're not happy, that's the kicker. Why are you defending it? Why are you defending it? You obviously know it doesn't make you happy. So you only defend it, protect it if it's something that you need. If it's not giving you what you want,
if it made you happy,
has to be something
you would
that
be
need.
happy.
Yeah.
Just like building a fulfilling life can make you happy.
Yeah.
Games aren't making anyone happy.
No.
Just like social media. Social media isn't making anyone happy. That seems to be.
Gamers are just sold on the delusion that it is better than the alternative. So it is their happiness. Relative to how they see the world, it is their happiness because it is the best version of living for them. And that's just because it's hijacked their brain. They've allowed it to hijack their brain.
A drug escape from reality that keeps you from making a reality or working to at the least start perceiving a reality in a more positive light that can move you in a better direction to finally build a life that gets so good you don't ever find the need to ever game again, because now your life's become an adventure. Just like the game, you have ups and downs, you have beautiful times, exciting times, and dark times. But that's what life actually is. And it's also the reason we play these games, to see that played out in a character. You watch Lord of the Rings to see, the adventure, the ups and downs, and have a good story for yourself. So I think we can end this conversation on games on that note.
Yeah. If you're gaming and doing nothing else, try something else.
If you're gaming and aren't happy, try not to game and do something else.